Let us begin with a basic premise. A war crime is not defined by who wins, nor by who tells the story. A war crime is defined by what is done, and to whom. To kill unarmed civilians knowingly and systematically, that is a war crime. Now apply that rule universally. In August 1945, the United States dropped atomic bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Over 200,000 civilians died, many instantly, others over days and decades. Hospitals, schools, families, entire neighborhoods disappeared. Why? To end the war early, to save American lives, to avoid a land invasion. But those justifications collapse under scrutiny. Declassified U.S. military reports show Japan was already seeking peace through Soviet mediation. U.S. officials like General Eisenhower and Admiral Leahy opposed the bomb. The Strategic Bombing Survey concluded Japan would have surrendered even if the atomic bombs had not been dropped. So why was it done? Because the weapon existed. Because they wanted to show it to the world. Because no one could stop them. Tokyo was firebombed 5 months earlier. In a single night, March 10, 1945, 100,000 civilians were burned alive. Children suffocated in the rubble. Mothers clutched charred infants. This was no mistake. It was planned. General Curtis LeMay later admitted, if we'd lost the war, we would have been tried as war criminals, but they didn't lose. So they were not tried. And history moved on. Now let us turn to Japan. In 1937, the Imperial Japanese Army captured Nanjing. What followed is known as the Nanjing Massacre. Western accounts, missionaries, doctors, diplomats reported atrocities, rape, looting, executions. Estimates vary from 20,000 to 300,000 dead, but let's be precise. No formal order from Tokyo has ever been found instructing soldiers to kill civilians. The massacre was likely the result of chaotic, decentralized violence. Many victims may have been guerrilla fighters disguised as civilians, so-called plainclothes soldiers. This doesn't absolve the violence, but it places it in context in the fog of urban warfare, where uniform and status blur. The tragedy is real, but the narrative is not as clear-cut as textbooks insist. After the war, the Allies convened the Tokyo trials. Japan's leaders were tried for crimes against peace and crimes against humanity. Yet the trials were one-sided. The United States, Britain, and the Soviet Union sat as judges. They exempted themselves from prosecution. The firebombing of civilians, the atomic bomb, the rape of German women by Soviet troops. None were on trial. Why? Because justice was never the goal. Punishment was. Rewriting history was. Establishing moral superiority by erasing their own crimes. So now we ask, if Japan was guilty for Nanjing, even with disputed numbers, no official orders, and battlefield confusion, then what of America? What of Hiroshima, where civilians were deliberately vaporized? What of Tokyo, where mothers and children were burned alive by design? What of the fact that those responsible admitted it in memoirs, interviews, and official documents? If Japan's leaders were war criminals because soldiers under their command committed atrocities, then what is Truman? What is LeMay? Why is their legacy untouchable? To this day, Japanese crimes are taught in schools worldwide as absolute, indisputable, unforgivable. Meanwhile, the United States teaches Hiroshima as a tragic necessity. They visit Hiroshima with bowed heads, but never apologize. They study Nanjing with outrage, but dismiss Dresden as just war. They say, Japan needed to be stopped. Yes, but at what cost? And who decided the rules? And so we return to the question, what is a war crime? Is it only a war crime when the enemy commits it? Is it no longer a crime if you win? Is justice just a mask for power? Let me be clear, the firebombing of civilians is a war crime. The nuclear annihilation of 2 cities is a war crime. Selective justice where only the defeated are judged is not justice. So why do they pretend not to know this? Why do they teach only half the story? Why do they look away from their own history, while insisting others never forget theirs? You are free to disagree. You are free to be offended. You are free to report this video, if that is your path. But truth does not ask for your approval. It only waits to be seen.